Hey, Stewart's Chapel, this is Don Pierson. Don Counts behind the camera. We're at the Counts' home. And this is September the 10th, Friday's devotion, September the 10th. And we are continuing our look at being burden bearers, and good and bad. I want to take you to Psalms 38, verses 4 through 10. It's intended to be. It's a very sad psalm about bearing burdens that did not have to be. Through my years, I have recognized this over and over again in individuals, that some people carry burdens that they should have never were intended to carry, and burdens that they should not be carrying anymore as well. Psalms 38, verse 4 through verse 10. Listen to what he says. For my iniquities, my sins, my ugliness, my transgressions, my iniquities have gone over my head. Almost like the idea of being in a flood, and he's being covered up. But the flood is not the water or the rain. The flood is his own iniquities, his own sin, his own ugliness, his own transgressions. They've gone over my head like a heavy burden. They are too heavy for me. My wounds are foul and festering because of my foolishness. I am troubled. I am bowed down greatly. I go mourning all the day long. I go in grief all day long. In other words, his shoulders are bent over. The idea of him being closer to the ground than he ought to be. My loins are full of inflammation, and there is no soundness in my flesh. I am feeble and severely broken. I groan because of the turmoil of my heart. Lord, all my desire is before you, and my sighing is not hidden from you. My heart pants, my strength fails me. As for the light of my eyes, it also has gone from me. So it identifies what has overcome him. It's his sins, his transgressions, his iniquities, the ugly things that he has done, his wickedness that he has done. It doesn't name them. It just talks them in the plural. In other words, there's so many, and they've gone way over his head. He is drowned. They're like a heavy, heavy burden for them. He does let us know that these transgressions, these iniquities, these sins were because he was foolish. He wasn't wise. He was foolish. But the impact of this heavy burden that he describes as iniquities has affected every part of him. Day and night, he's in grief. He walks slower. He walks heavier. He feels broken. There is constant turmoil in his soul, in his spirit, in his heart. He says, Lord, all my desire before you. In other words, everything I want is right here. Lord, you see everything. But the last part is probably one of the saddest. As for the light of my eyes, it has gone from me. There's no joy. There's no light. State of heaviness, depression, great burden. So I want to leave with you. Sadly, I've seen this way too many times. Sadly, maybe some of you. First of all, it shouldn't be. That's what he says. When he says it's all because of my foolishness, he's basically saying it didn't have to be this way. This is not God's fault. This is all his. He owns every bit of it. It's his iniquities. It's his sin. He knows it. It didn't have to be. It didn't have to be. But this is the part that you and I hear from the mouth of Jesus in Matthew 11, verses 28 and 30. For in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 and 30, we hear the Lord inviting all those who are heavy burdened. Almost literally the same word that is found in verse 4 in Psalms 38. An invitation from the Lord saying, all ye who are heavily laden, heavy burden, you come unto me. I'll give you rest. I'll restore. I will give you peace. You see, there's no one that should have to continue in this way. It doesn't matter whether it didn't have to be. God knows it didn't have to be. You know it didn't have to be. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to continue to be either. God invites you to come to Him. Now, some of you are believers and still carry this. You need to forgive yourself. How dare you ask God to forgive you and Him declare that He has, and for you not to forgive yourself? What a slap in the face of God. He wouldn't invite you who are heavy burdened if He wasn't going to fulfill His part. The other thing I would say to you is that if you're not a Christian, He invites you to. You don't have to. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Notice the scripture does not name or list all the iniquities. It doesn't matter. The invitation is to all, for all. Come to the Lord. All you who are heavy. And He will give you rest. Love you, Stewart's Chapel.